Hello friends, in this video we will discuss asexual reproduction in algae. We know that asexual reproduction in algae occurs through various spores that may be motile or may not be motile. So various motile and non-motile spores are formed during asexual reproduction in algae. And these spores further do not fuse with each other, because when they will fuse then it comes under sexual reproduction. So asexual reproduction in algae occurs through various type of motile and non-motile spores. So the first spore, that is zoospore. So these are motile spores, or you can say flagellated single-celled spores. So these are called flagellated single-cell spores, which have small protoplasm, flagella and a eye spot. So these are called zoospores, and these are produced inside zoosporangium. Suppose this is a structure, larger structure. So these are produced in this larger structure, and this structure is called zoosporangium. For example, Oedogonium. So these are zoospores. So zoospores are smaller non-motile cells, smaller motile cells which are flagellated single cell structure that are produced inside zoosporangium. So these type of spores are formed in aquatic algae. So next is a planospore. It is non-motile single-celled spore which is without flagella. So it is formed in terrestrial algae. It may be formed singly inside a planosporangium. So the structure in which it is formed, it's called a planosporangium. Or there may be multiple aplanospore inside single aplanosporangium. So there may be single or multiple. So what are aplanospore? Aplanospores are non-motile single-celled spores that are produced inside terrestrial algae. So next is Otospore. So these are spores which are identical to its parent cell. For example, this is a parent cell and it's like this. So when spores are produced by these cells, they are pretty identical to this cell, or you can say replica copy of this cell, but the only difference is between this cell, parent cell, and spores is they are in miniature form, or they are in smaller form. They are smaller than its parent cell. So these are called otospores. These spores which are identical to its parent cell but smaller in size. So these are called otospores. For example, Cinedasmus. Example of aplanospore will be Wucheria. Next is Hypospores. So Hypospores are thick-walled Planospores. What are planospores? Non-motile spores without flagella. So these are thick-walled planospores which are formed under unfavorable condition. So these are thick-walled. Here a planospore becomes thick-walled due to unfavorable condition, and this is called Hypospores. So these are formed in Chlamydomonas nivalis. Next is Tetraspores. Tetra means four, spore, asexual reproductive structure. Here a single diploid cell divides by, suppose this is a single cell and it is diploid, it is 2n, it divides by meiosis. Single diploid cell divide by meiosis and it produces 4 spores, 4 different spores like this. It divides by meiosis and it produces 4 spore inside sporangium. So this sporangium will be called tetrasporangium because it is forming 4 spores. So the number of these spores are 4. That's why they are called tetraspores. So a simple diploid cell will divide by meiosis and will form 4 different spores. So these spores are called tetraspores. These spores, all these spores will be haploid because they are produced by meiosis. So these are called tetraspores. These are found in Polysiphonia. What are achaenates? Achaenates are thick-walled resting spores that are formed under unfavorable condition. So these are found in nostoc. So these are, suppose this is a filament, some cell of this filament will secrete thick wall around themselves and they will reserve abundant protoplasm inside its cell. So these spores are called achaenates. Next are endospore. Endo means inside. Spores that are produced inside the cell. Suppose this is a cell and its protoplasm divides into smaller miniature protoplast, and then these smaller protoplast will comes out and germinate and form new individual similar to parent. So these are called endospores, spores that are produced inside. Next one is exospores. Suppose this is a sporangium cell that are producing spores. Its wall, upper wall will degenerate and there will be a direct contact of this cell towards outer environment through this aperture. Now its protoplasm will form spores one by one towards outer side and they will release one by one. First one is released, then next spore is formed from there, then it will release, then another will form and it will release. So here spores are forming towards outer sides. That's why it is called exospore. Outer side, the spores that are from outer side. That's why it is called exospores. So these endospores, exospores, they are found in blue-green algae. Nanocytes. Here a cell, simple cell will divide its protoplasm into smaller protoplasts without increasing in size, and these will come out by disintegration of this wall of this cell, and they will germinate and they will form new cell. So difference between nanocyte and endospore is that first during the process of formation of endospore, this cell first will increase in size, then it will divide its protoplasm into smaller protoplasts. But in case of nanocyte, this cell will not increase in size, it will simply divide its protoplasm into smaller cells. These are also found in blue-green algae. And the last one is monospore. Mono means single spore. Single spore is produced when single spore is produced inside sporangium. So this is sporangium, and this sporangium produces single spore, and this spore germinates and to form new plant. Then this spore is called monospore. It is found in Batrachospermum. So these are asexual reproductive spores found in algae. First is zoospore. It is motile flagellated spores, which is single cell. It have flagella and also eye spot inside it. So it is found in aquatic algae, for example Oedogonium. A planospore, these are spores which are non-motile, non-flagellated and single celled spores found in terrestrial algae. So they may be formed singly inside a planosporangium or maybe more than one. Otospores, spores which are identical to its parent cell, which are very similar to, which are very replica copy of its parent, but the difference is they are smaller in size. So you can say that here it is a miniature form of this cell. It have all the property or it will perform all the function that is its parent cell is performing. So it is a replica. So these are found in Synedesmus. Next is Hypospores. These are thick-walled planospores. These are planospores. So when the conditions are unfavorable, then these planospores secrete thick wall around itself. Then it will be called Hypospore. For example, Chlamydomonas nivalis. Next is Tetraspore. When a diploid cell divide by meiosis and forms spore, inside is sporangium, that is called tetrasporangium. Then these haploid spores are called tetraspores, found in Polysiphonia. Akinet's thick-walled resting spores that are formed during unfavorable condition. These cells, the cells that are forming akinete, will secrete thick wall around itself and will accumulate large amount of protoplasm. So this cell is called akinete. Next one is endospore. The spores that are formed inside the cell by dividing its protoplast into smaller protoplasts. Next is exospores, the spores that are produced outer side. Its wall will degenerate and it will form spores one by one toward outer side. So this is called exospores. Nanocyte, when its cell without increasing in cell divides its protoplasm into smaller cells, then it will be called nanocytes. And the last one is monospores. When single spore are produced inside sporangium and these spores will come out and germinate to form new plant, then it is called monospore. For example, Batrachospermum.